you struggling to make your first 100K or next? Are you pretending you're successful but barely getting by? Are you tired of comparing yourself to millionaires and billionaires who make it look so easy? Welcome to First 100K, the #1 entrepreneur voice in America. I talk about the important things that no one else is talking about, like how to make your first $100,000, because I believe this is where 90% of entrepreneurs get stuck. And I tackle the mental game of entrepreneurship that we all secretly struggle with but won't admit. My guests are successful entrepreneurs who share their mistakes, their #1 fears, their daily habits, and their superpowers that push them over the 100K mark. I'm your host, your coach, your friend, Joseph Warren. I'm also a 10-time failed entrepreneur and the owner of 2 co-working spaces here in Tampa, Florida. This show was created for you, the entrepreneur who's pushing to break through the elusive 100K milestone. Wherever you are in your business, you're just 100K away. Do you wish growing a business was easier? Are you feeling frustrated that it's taking so long to make your first 100K? I used to feel the same way until I discovered the one thing that was missing. It wasn't more marketing tips or strategies. It wasn't reading more business books, and it wasn't learning more stuff. I could show you what's holding you back and blocking your success if you like. Typical side effects include higher income, peace of mind, loving relationships, real connection with God, freedom from addictions, purpose, fulfillment, and a brand new lifestyle. It all starts by scheduling a spiritual clarity call with me to get clarity on what you want right now in your life and to see if we want to work together. Visit josephwarren.net/possibilities to learn more. That's josephwarren.net/possibilities. Today, my featured guest is Judy Robinett, and you can find her at judyrobinett.com. That's Robinett with 2 T's on the end there. And Judy's a startup funding expert, a super connector, best-selling author, keynote speaker, and investor, as profiled in Fast Company magazine, Forbes, Vogue, CNN, and Bloomberg Businessweek. Wow, this girl's got it going on. Judy Robinett is a powerhouse of ideas in her more than 30 years of experience as an entrepreneur and corporate leader. Judy served as the CEO of both public and private companies and in management positions at Fortune 500 companies. She has been on the advisory board of Robinett Ventures, an early-stage venture capital firm based in Menlo Park, California, Pereg Ventures, a venture capital firm based in New York, and Springboard Enterprises based in Washington, D.C., and Women Innovate Mobile accelerators based in New York. So this girl is doing it. She's got all aspects of in front of the desk, behind the desk, bootstrap entrepreneur to CEO in the boardroom, and really gives you that wide breadth of what does it look like to build a successful startup business and take it all the way. And we're going to talk about a little bit about her book. She wrote this book called Crack the Funding Code, How Investors Think and What They Need to Hear from You to Fund Your Startup. So if that's of interest to you, stay tuned. We're going to get into it. But as always, on your first 100K, we start with the story. Who is the person behind the startup? That's who I want to know. That's interesting to me. Success looks pretty, but I want to know the human story because I believe we're all broken, but we're all made for greatness. That's it, Startup Nation. So Judy, welcome to the show. Go ahead and fill in some of the gaps in that intro, would you?
Sure. Thank you, Joseph, and a great introduction. I started life as a social worker, finally decided I couldn't stand to see any more beat and abused kids, and I ended up going in business. I was asked to give a speech at MIT. Somebody handed me a Wall Street Journal. It had a study that had been done on how to become financially successful in the US, and it had these 5 ways. Be a doctor, a lawyer, inherit it, or marry it. And I thought, well, the first 4 are out. And the 5th one was start a business. And I went, wow, how hard could that be? And dumb me, I did a franchise restaurant. I went to the SBA, got a $1.3 million SBA loan, and at about year 8 could, see I was not going to be successful, and I was pretty terrified. I went to a bankruptcy attorney, just shaking in my boots, literally, and he looked at the financials and he said, you're not even close. And I said, but I'm broke. And he said something that was really profound that changed my life with every other venture since, and that was, they can break you, but they can't eat you. And I thought, okay. So I went back, put the
What did
hair
that
up the
mean
back
to
of my
you?
neck.
What did that mean
It,
to you,
it
Judy?
meant they couldn't kill me. And when you're terrified and panicked, it's like running around henny penny, the sky is falling. I couldn't sleep nights, I'd cry. I thought I'd wrecked my life. I'd inherited some money from my father, which I'd used on that first venture. And I thought my life was wrecked at age 38. That's when I, got out of the corporate world. And when he said that, I said, okay, there's got to be another way. And I was able to talk with some people, a couple of people that mentored me a bit. Finally figured out with my team that we could turn inventory 30 times. Was able to pay off all of our bills. I, sold that business. But I will tell you, on the 100K, I'll never forget the first week we opened, they lost our safe somewhere, shipping it across the United States. And I was putting money in paper bags in the trunk of my car. And I'll never forget, I went to the bank, I had $80,000 in the trunk of my car, and I looked at that and I said, why did I work for somebody else making them rich? And that was another profound kind of moment for me. And people would say to me initially, aren't you afraid you're going to fail? And I said, I worry about what color Mercedes I'll buy. I mean, that was my initial logic. So that's a little bit of, and going through that experience and selling that first business put steel up my spine. Tony Robbins talks about next level, next devil. And I found that to be very profound. But I'll tell everyone out there that for me, the devil inside was fear. And there's no lack of resources on this planet. There's 370 trillion of private wealth. No lack of money, no lack of ideas, information. They're all attached to other people. And I humbly believe that God gives us each gifts and that we come here to make the world a better place. And when you break out of that isolation that I, watched a YouTube video with a great guy last night, talk about, if you focus on doing good and you embrace other people, you can get through anything.
I really get that. You just brought up isolation, and Judy, this resonates with me because like I used to teach the business plan classes at the local government foundations here in Tampa, Florida, and one thing that would come up would people would be like, oh, the number one reason why small businesses fail is lack of funding. And I'm like, that's such a lie. That's very small thinking. That's a symptom. What's the core problem? And the core problem, I think the number one reason why small businesses fail is because of isolation, is because they're not getting out and going for the resources, the connections. Like you said, there's unlimited wealth out there and resources and connections for people. And they're staying like hidden in their bedrooms, bouncing ideas off the mirrors, running their home businesses. What shows up for you in that?
Yeah, so, a couple of things. So Paul Graham, who is the co-founder of Y Combinator, has famously said there's only two reasons a small business fails. And this isn't a hometown Main Street business, but this is a little bigger vision. Number one is lack of a customer. And number two is lack of funding. And of course, if you don't have the customer, you don't have that product market fit, and you don't know what you're doing. And then the second thing is, Christensen at Harvard, who is the expert on all things innovation, once said that 80% of businesses pivot. And you're absolutely right, Joseph. So most people will get very isolated. They are like, wow, I am into this Kool-Aid. If I just work harder. And they don't know what they don't know. And so that isolation, as you're talking about, will kill you because you're not smart enough to know everything. You're not smart enough to know everything. You need an advisory board to help you to see your blind spots. So Reed, the founder of LinkedIn, wrote a great little book, and he talked about networking and what it tells you. And the first thing it tells you is it helps you see things, those dark sides of you that you might not see. And just a quick example, when I was in graduate school, the dean, and I grew up thinking I was fat, ugly, and stupid. If you want some transparency. And so in graduate school, I was hot on getting A's. And my dean called me in and he said, Judy, the guys on your team, and there were only 4 women in the master's economics class, they don't want to be on your team anymore. And I said, what? And he said, they say you're too aggressive. And I literally went up to his desk, took my fist and went, I am not aggressive. Who said I'm aggressive? And then, of course, I cried all the way home. And then later he said to me, you're like a bull in a china closet. You need to be aware of other people's feelings. And I thought, feelings? Who cares about feelings? We've got work to do. And so other people will help you see not only those blind spots, but also the gifts that you have, because we can't be gifted at everything.
That is so true. So letting go of some of that aggression, how has that helped you along the way? And I ask personally because, that was something that showed up for me. People like Joseph, you just come in and kind of bark orders at people and get people moving and everything like that. But you're kind of tough. You're kind of harsh. You give the whole truth, the tough truth, and people have got feelings. I'm like, well, man up, woman up, let's go. So I really get that. So, really, lowering that aggression, how has that really showed up and helped you win in business?
So, when I was younger, I did that out of fear. I was afraid we were going to fail in class. And in graduate school, it was like a big bat to the head for me. And at the same time, I was very shy. I was afraid, why would anyone want to talk to me? That self-worth or, not feeling I was good enough to achieve anything. And I've always been very caring and generous with people, but it was able to shine a mirror on me to say, you can't do it by yourself. You can't do it. Doesn't matter how hard you work, you're never going to do it by yourself. And so I became much more open to developing emotional IQ, listening, and not just listening, but hearing.
Yes. So I really like that realization of, and I'll say this to you, Startup Nation, as you're listening in right now, maybe you're in that place that Judy and I were in, where you think you can do it all on your own. And just know that is a false expectation. You will learn the hard way, or you will be smart and learn from our mistakes and catch on really early and realize that you need others to win big in life. You just do. You can't do it all on your own. Judy said it so well. You're not smart enough to know everything. No one is. So Judy, let's get into the money game. My audience loves context, and we'll just do an approximate here. But how much gross revenue did your current business, your existing business, do in the past 12 months approximately?
So I have an interesting business model. So after I did that first business, I was asked to help other people turn around businesses. I became CEO of a public company for about 10 years, learned how to raise $8 million in dire circumstances. The company had been delisted. It was public. The company was in litigation and they were broke. And so I became kind of an expert in learning how to raise money. I didn't know that. I was just pretty desperate. And so now I have segued into sitting on boards. So I do in investing. I'm not quite sure what I would say my stock portfolio might be worth right now, but I can tell you, you talk about that first 100,000 and being excited. I did the same thing at my first million and got really excited. And then I blew through that, much like you did with yours. Well over a million, I would say.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. Well done. So, how did you make that first 100K, right? Because like I really want to get into more of the mental game of making the money, because I think money flows where our energy goes, right? And where our energy is where our focus is. So, what was going on inside of you? What was some of that self talk, whether good or negative, that really was happening between your two ears, year one, two, and three?
Yeah, so, I was raised in, I guess, middle class. My dad was in the military. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurs. I knew I was supposed to get a job.
Mm,
And when I was in my 30s and read that article, and then someone pointed out, as long as you work for other people, you're making them rich. But I didn't know any rich people. The first time I met a millionaire, I was in awe. Now I'm friends with several billionaires. And I didn't realize that the world is abundant. There is no lack of money. There's no lack of anything. And so I really, the first thing was getting educated and changing my mindset and realizing if there was other money out there, other opportunities that maybe I could go after them.
mm,
And so it took some courage, I would say, initially, because I didn't really know. One of the good things I did was I joined early on. It was just a local kind of investor group, and it's a National Association of NAIC, and it's just groups that teach you how to invest in stocks. And in that group, there were some pretty wealthy, by my standards, individuals, a high-end banker, a high-end attorney that were making more than I was as a vice president of a hospital. And that was really instructive to learn about ROI and learn about all that stuff. And then I started meeting millionaires, and I thought, these guys don't seem to be any smarter. Um, and they certainly don't seem to have worked harder. Maybe I need to rethink that, what I was taught, keep your head down, get a good education, work hard, people will notice. And, in the corporate world, I found out they didn't notice. There was this underlying power grid
mm-hmm.
that was different than the org chart. And so I learned about influence and power and the need to be a very strategic networker. And I started asking a lot of questions. So I teach people what I call my 3 golden questions. And the first one, when you meet someone, is to say, how can I help you? And if you learn to add value immediately, it can be an introduction, it could be an invite. I invite people to events at the White House if I can't go, or different places, sharing an article. But the next 2 questions are profound, and it's what's led me to private events at the White House and speaking gigs all over the world and becoming friends with people like Mark Burnett and Kevin Harrington. And you tell people what you're up to, and you're authentic and open and honest enough that you say, what other ideas do you have for me? And it allows them to kind of like, think through their brain, be strategic. You will come up with valuable wisdom, insights, knowledge that you could have never thought about, or you don't have enough time to read all the books on. And then the second one is, who else do you know I should talk to? Those 2 questions have resulted in me going from the shy, bullied kid from, small town Idaho where they filmed Napoleon Dynamite, to now being blessed enough to, I've done 2 TED Talks, I've written 2 books, never planned on writing a book. And I did that because I wanted other people to understand behind the secret, the magic curtain, what really happened in the funding world. Because you're not taught that anywhere. You couldn't look up in the old days and the yellow pages and find, oh, an investor, someone who'd be interested in my startup. And so that was a little bit of my thinking. First it was getting educated, then rubbing shoulders with people. I had volunteered to be on a United Way board because I needed some expertise in finance. And so I joined the finance committee. That was the first time I rubbed shoulders with a millionaire. I started seeing their mindset was different than mine. I
Mm,
started seeing that they had opportunities I didn't have. I started seeing who they were friends with strategically, and
mm.
that there was this whole other world out there with no lack of money, opportunities, ideas.
Mm, that's powerful. So, Startup Nation, hopefully you wrote that down. If not, replay the show. Judy's three golden questions. Number one, how can I help you? Be of service to people as soon as you meet them. Number two, what other ideas do you have for me? Right? Be open to what other people see that you don't see about you. You have blind spots. I have blind spots. Judy has blind spots. We all do. You want people to point out those blind spots, but most people won't unless you invite them to actually do that, right? And number three, who else do you know that I should talk to? Who else do you know that I should talk to? That's a valuable question. I've used that myself, many times, and people will suggest, boom, actually, Judy, that's how you got on this show, I believe,
Yeah.
through our mutual friend, Jim. And, he just like, hey, Joseph, you want to interview Judy, and so it just works out. So Startup
Yeah.
Nation, write those down, press replay, make sure you capture those. And every time you meet someone new, go through those three questions with them.
And make sure you educate other people on your story. If you've got a startup, then you need to tell them about that and say what other ideas. I've seen people who've been stuck in, getting sales. Sales are the lifeblood of your company. Got to get those customers. You can do things like go to the Association of Corporate Growth. These organizations are in every town practically in the United States, mid-sized towns. And it's CXO level people who meet once a month and share ideas and opportunities. And you can be just one person away from signing a contract that will be the lifeblood of money, cash into your company. And
Mm,
so, what other ideas, who else do you know I should talk to? And you can have it focused on, I'm in the spot, I'm trying to get into Walmart, get into whatever. You're just amazed. I often give speeches. I gave one a couple of months ago at Black Women in Tech in New York City. And the first question I get asked is, how do I find an investor? So I said, raise your hands if any of you are an investor, know an investor, a VC, a hedge fund, a family office. A third of the hands went up. And the young woman who asked, her jaw literally dropped. And so these people are around us all everywhere. And you need to get comfortable with talking to strangers. Most people are good. They will
yes.
help you if you ask.
Yes.
It's that ask you shall be given. It really does work.
Yes, Startup Nation, stop thinking that people are going to read your mind. It's not working for you. Stop doing it. Change your approach. Judy is right. The resources, the connections, they're all around you. Start asking the right questions, right? Inviting people in, get out of your isolation. All right, Judy, can you believe it? Like time, we're having so much fun, girl. Time is running out quick. That's how it works here, right? It's
Yep.
just like entrepreneurship. You can miss that opportunity, girl. All right, so welcome to my favorite part of the show. Welcome to the hustle round. This is where I'm going to ask you 10 quick fire questions. You'll have about 3 seconds to answer each. It's just for fun. Don't overthink it. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go. But before we do, Startup Nation, we're listening with Judy Robinett. You can find her at Judy Robinett. That's with two T's.com, JudyRobinett.com. And she wrote the book, Crack the Funding Code. Go find out. Go pick up that book. How do you get and attract those investors? What's on their mind? What are the questions they want you to be asking them? Right? Go read her book. Go pick that up at any major retailer. So, Judy, here we go. First question for you. What's your favorite thing about being an entrepreneur?
The chaos. When there's chaos, you can create.
Got it. That's quite an interesting perspective. What's your least favorite thing?
The hard spots. When the fear creeps in and you have to readjust your prefrontal cortex.
Mm. What are you most afraid of?
I'm not afraid of a whole lot anymore. I'm 66. Maybe the way I'm going to die.
There you go. Next level, next devil, right? Got it. What did you spend way too much time doing your first year in business?
Worrying.
Worrying. Startup Nation, stop worrying. What secret fear do you have about people?
Um, I don't anymore. So I got over that. I can talk to anyone, anywhere, realize, they have gifts, and if I can help, I should.
Got it. What was the biggest fear you had about people and how'd you overcome it?
The biggest fear I had was they would think I was stupid. Why would they want to talk to me? And just by saying hello and realizing how critical it was to develop relationships.
And again, Startup Nation, realize what Judy said. Most people are good. Most people are kind. What did you wish you had learned way sooner in business?
That there's no lack of resources out there and most people will help.
That's it. And what's a new habit you want to form?
So I was just really, really sick and lost quite a bit of weight, and I'm working on building my strength up, and I can now get on my horse without a mounting block, which is fun.
That's awesome. All right, so build up that strength again. And what's a bad habit you want to break?
Bad habit I want to break.
Come on, we all got something.
Maybe my addiction to too much chocolate.
Chocolate addiction. Oh no. Pick 3 words to describe who you are now.
Enthusiastic, a learner, and generous.
That's awesome. Pick 3 words to describe who you were your first year in business.
Terrified, panicked, but excited.
I get that. And last question, Judy, if you could come back to life after you died, look your family and friends in the eye and give them only one piece of advice, what would you say to them?
After being an agnostic, I would say there's more to life than the scientific method and intellectual curiosity, and study the classics.
Amen to that. Knowledge is power, but knowledge is not enough, my friends. Any final wisdom, Judy? What's the one thing you want my listener to know about making their first 100K in the next 12 months?
You can do it. Ask for help. Be open to other people's ideas and get a mentor.
Amen to that. And speaking of mentors, Startup Nation, if you are interested in having a mentor like this guy, I offer spiritual coaching. Why? Because I believe that it's not all about the money. Success is not just about the money. It's about, are you wealthy on the inside as well? And how do you integrate your faith, your beliefs, what you stand for into your business? I don't believe they need to be separated. I think that's a big lie. And that's why most of us show up in our businesses and get the wealth, and then we end up empty once we get to the top. I, for one, lived that out. I was depressed and suicidal once I got the millions. Why? Because I was broken on the inside rather than spiritually alive. So if you want some coaching in that, if you want someone to look at your blind spots and help you win constantly, that's what I offer. You could go to josephwarren.net and sign up for a clarity call with me. We'll jump on for 30 minutes and we'll get clear about what you want in your life right now and if we want to work together. So that's josephwarren.net. Judy, you are a rock star. What is the best way for Startup Nation to get in touch with you if they so choose?
So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, and my email is judy@judyrobinett.com.
Fantastic. And Judy, I just want to say, I like you. You're fabulous. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're a fabulous guest. I'd love to have you on again. And I'm sure we could talk some deeper things like Dante and other things as well.
Yeah,
maybe I'll have you on my Broken Catholic show. Then we could get all things spiritual. So I just wish you God's love, peace, and joy in your life, my friend.
Thank you.
Startup Nation, you cannot show up authentically in your business without building faith in your business. If you want to have that conversation on the faith side of things, go check out my other podcast called Broken Catholic. On that show, I interview all different guests about why the world isn't working right now. Plus, I tackle unspeakable topics that you may secretly struggle with, but won't admit. We got to get your faith right to get your business right. Go to brokencatholic.com. I'm Joseph Warren, and you were made for greatness. So stop being a wuss and start being a winner. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you right back here next week.